What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today. Here with me have some more RPG horror stories. Guess what? I'm back in VR, back with hands and legs. You can't see the legs, but here you go. You can see the legs now. Look at this. Look at them leggies go. And you know what else? I'm doing this with my back hurting because this weather has been absolutely terrible. It's hot and cold and hot and cold. Feels like I'm constantly going through some sort of like a temperature compress. I think that's what they're called. So I'm doing this while in VR with my back hurting. I hope you appreciate it. Nevertheless, let's get some RPG horror stories for today. Player generates AI character with zero shame and awareness. There's probably a million stories like this in this subreddit, unfortunately, but I decided I'd talk about it because this was my first experience with it. I've been trying to branch out in college, and I managed to get into D&D group with some really chill people. Last week we had a session 0 to create our characters and talk ideas with each other. Some people were sick, plague going around campus, and couldn't come. One of those people who we'll call John AI. John AI didn't show up, but was told to make a character before our very first session. No pressure. They had a week. They proceeded to wait until the very last night before the first session to do any work, quote unquote. This is when they sent the DM a word-for-word ChatGPT generated character. Like it had ChatGPT said and everything. I don't know. I can't really put my mind into these people, but if I was using AI to generate a character, I don't think I'd be flaunting it in the way John did, you know? It's one thing to use AI to do like some sort of like a spreadsheet design or take notes or organize the notes in chronological order and stuff, but it's a whole other thing to just use AI to just do all the work for you and be like, here you go, DM, that's my character sheet. Didn't proofread or anything, I'm just trusting the robot to put whatever nonsense they want to put in there. Yippee. Anyway, it was the worst, most nothing character backstory ever. Something about being a cursed child and they were kicked out of the village. It had no substance. They also sent their character sheet that was on D&D Beyond. No hate to D&D Beyond, but it's very clearly made with quick build. Like if you're going to use AI for your character, at least put some effort into building them. Okay, well there's nothing wrong with using quick build in order to build a character for the very first time, especially if you're brand new to it. What, are we gonna start shaming quick build? That little note section where it's like, hey, if you want to build a warlock, you better pick this background, and this is your main stat and stuff. Prioritize this over that. There's nothing wrong with using quick builds. What? Are we supposed to start shaming quick builds for new players? Or maybe, I don't know, you're not new, but you're trying a new class and you don't know exactly how you should put together a class. And if it says, oh, monk should probably get the Outlander background, okay, sure, I'll pick the Outlander background. Why not? I don't know what else to come up with. We'll just go with that instead. Anyway, let's continue. These people cannot do anything themselves. It's honestly very insulting because I spent hours crafting my character, and losers like this just plug some prompts into AI and get some BS. I guess I shouldn't take it personally. DM was very kind and patient with John and told him to try again and write their own backstory. And they just said no and left. I mean, perfect. That's a solution right there. Your DM is the filter for what should be allowed at your table. Your DM is the filter. They set the filter. If the player doesn't pass the filter, then they're out of the game. Problem solved. I don't see how this is an RPG horror story. Like this is a solution. This is an RPG success. This is an RPG. How is this an RPG horror story? I don't get it. At least there was no fighting and they owned up to it. Like honestly, I'm just shocked at the audacity. Grown-ass adult, by the way, can't do anything by themselves. Had to use AI and refuse an alternative. These people are just crazy to me. Besides what I just complained about, we all had a very fun first session without that loser where we busted an illegal bird poaching ring that had nothing to do with the main story. It was hilarious and we were all cracking up. I'm sure it would have been less enjoyable with John AI, so there's a happy ending there. I mean, yeah, success, story, and everything. There's not even much on RPG horror story in the slide. It's just, hey, somebody used AI. How dare you use AI? What a big jerk. What a big doo-doo face. Are you okay? You sound very bitter about John. And listen, it's completely valid to not want to play with somebody that's going to be just using AI to some sort of AI slop for a character. There's nothing wrong with having standards. I fully agree. You should have standards, and you should have standards and boundaries, and just in general standards are what is bare minimum at your table. You need to set filters at your table and you're working with the DM to make sure those filters are upheld. But you sound, I don't know, but you kind of sound I want to say bitter. You sound very upset. You calling John a loser. Maybe John is just a brand new guy that doesn't know how things work and stuff. I don't want to necessarily defend somebody that's using AI, but you don't know the person's situation. And while I have had my moments of jumping to conclusion in some of the stories, I fully am aware. I understand. I'm a flawed tiefling, not even a human being. I'm a hellspawn, guys. There is indeed a possibility that maybe John was just one of those guys that had no idea how this is supposed to go, and maybe somebody suggested him a really bad idea of using ChatGPT, and he was like, I don't know what that is, but sure, let's give it a try. I don't know what I'm doing. The one good thing, however, we can learn from this is having filters and setting standards at your table is a good thing, and honestly, I fully encourage it. Just like how we have session zeros and they're encouraged to have, you should also have standards and expectations set at the table and make sure those are upheld properly. Nevertheless, this is not even a horror story, it's just a W. Let's continue on with the next story for today. I have to turn you in cause or reasons. Important characters. Me. I was playing a noble Order of the Scribes wizard named Lenora. Important to this story is that my wizard was a runaway princess trying to escape her family and arrange marriage. Her brother was a high-ranking member of her kingdom's religious order. The order itself was not evil, but her brother was using crocodile tears and the promise of rescuing a princess to mobilize priests and paladins to recover her. Cleric, a priest of a different kingdom, and chosen champion of his god. His character was from a completely different part of the world, which worshipped a different pantheon, and in general had nothing to do with the order my wizard brother belonged to. The campaign had just started and problems emerged as we were introducing our characters. One thing about the cleric that became apparent quickly is that his character was a socially anxious mess. He would break down into a blubbering mess at the mere thought of just talking to people, often to the point of running away from social encounters. Needless to say, this was incredibly frustrating. If the way that playing the character is a bit of a problem at the table or causes somebody not to have fun at the table because it's like grinding the gears or getting in the way of the fun, have y'all considered talking that out? Or maybe talking, directly to the player about it and seeing if maybe we can kind of hash it out. It's one thing to have a character have a bit of a gimmick, right? Like be a little bit of pompous and stuff, or maybe, I don't know, have a specific way they interact with people that may not be necessarily the nicest, but you're doing it just for roleplay because it's fun and not because you're actually trying to ruin someone's experience. Like for example, I have a Dhampir blood hunter, Selena Duskrin. She is a drow Dhampir that used to live in the Underdark, but now she lives on the surface, exploring the world as part of the Adventurers Guild, and she's very to herself. She's very selfish, and she'll always make all kinds of snide remarks and comments towards people whenever she feels the need to feel a little bit superior, but at the end of the day, I'm not gonna just like play her like as if I'm trying to ruin someone's fun. I'll roleplay her as a very snooty little drow that's used of high life and living among the nobility as part of a kingdom's court. But at the end of the day, it's all roleplay because at the end of the day, I'm still cooperating with the rest of the party. It's one thing to roleplay a character in a wacky, goofy way for fun. It's another thing if you're playing a character in such a way that ruins other people's fun. Anyway, this ultimately lasted about 2 sessions. 2 sessions, wow! Before we reach a point in the plot where we have some downtime. So we start sharing backstory information. My wizard explains that some priests and paladins are being manipulated into searching for her, and that the party may need to lie to them. In spite of Cleric's previous track record of folding under the slightest bit of pressure, he suddenly grows a backbone and adamantly refuses to lie to holy people for any reason. Is this a lawful stupid kind of thing? I feel like this is a lawful stupid moment. As mentioned above, Cleric had no connection to the Order looking for her. We haven't even encountered any NPCs from that faction yet. We try giving several reasons in character and out why he should listen to her, including the fact that the god his cleric worship is adamantly opposed to the concept of arranged marriages, but he just stubbornly refuses to relent. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, and he was kicked out. With only me and one other player left, we couldn't continue, which sucks cause I made some nice art for Lenora. Oh well, you can always save the art and reuse it for another character in another campaign, who knows? Also, this is, again, okay, listen, I don't want to sound like a negative Nancy and stuff, but when I'm looking for RPG horror stories, I'm looking for the juicy bits, for drama, for chaos. How dare you do this to me? How dare you take away my player agency? Nah, I'm kidding. Nah, I'm messing around. I'm honestly kidding. I'm glad that the story worked out for the best, and honestly, this is the good way to do things. If the character is acting against the party, and the player is fully adamant for going against the party in a cooperative experience game such as D&D or the other TTRPGs, kind of no point of really having them there, because they're not working with the party, they're working against the party. Their fun is ruining other people's fun, because to them, for whatever reason, they just gotta stick with it, even though it doesn't make sense for the character to do it. It just becomes a lawful stupid. You're lawful enough, but stupid enough to do some of the dumbest things ever, to the point where it's not even lawful anymore. It's just plain stupid. Nevertheless, that was the right decision to do. If a player is going against the party and trying to screw somebody over on purpose for their own fun, or for whatever reason they have, whatever crazy machinations they got going on inside the noggin, yeah, you remove them out of the party. Remove them out of the game, find somebody else, maybe. Anyway, wow, dude, I'm blazing through these stories like crazy. God damn, look at me. Morrow, more like Speedo. Wait, that doesn't make sense. No, that doesn't make sense. Don't call me Speedo. Let's go ahead and get to the next story for today. DM freaks out when a player leaves the campaign and nukes the server. Hello, this is the second ever post I've done on this Reddit or elsewhere on Reddit, so apologize if it's a little clunky. Overview of the cast. Rogue me, Paladin, Fighter, Sorcerer, Warlock DM, the problem person. So this story only happened 3 or 4 months ago, back in November of 2025. After successfully joining my first ever campaign, which was a Lost Minds of Phandelver module, still had space in my schedule for a play-by-post D&D 5e 2024 game via Discord, text chat, Avray, and D&D Beyond. For reference, I'm a college student who's looking into film production, and my schedule fluctuates week to week for my availability, so having a play-by-post game would work well with my schedule, as no one needs to roleplay it daily, and the fact that we are restricted by time zone differences, so we cannot all be on at the same time usually. I put out a post on D&D official Discord, and I got a response back within a week or two from the DM. We had a friendly chat going over the setting and character creation, and then I was invited to the Discord. I'm not sure if this world was fully homebrewed or from a standard module, but it's not relevant to the story. During this time, I asked if I could join his future campaigns, and he said yes. This would be important later. So the game starts and everyone is having a great time. I compliment the DM on how he really fleshed out the world just using standard text, with Tupperbot to represent our characters and NPCs, and I even post different music for different scenes and settings we're put in. It all comes to a head after the first ever combat we finish, which is set in a town where we were all delivered on a cart with amnesia that should have probably been the first red flag, because it made all of our characters' backstories obsolete. To help out, the townsfolk from the curse set up upon them, with goblins and orcs carrying out the deed of murdering everyone with us to protect them. Starting off on the card with amnesia, I was actually unironically thinking you're gonna be like, and then suddenly they talk about you basically arrive to a imperial stronghold about to be executed and a dragon shows up. Literally a whole Skyrim intro, which would be nuts to do. Has anybody done Skyrim in D&D before? Let me know. Let's continue. All of our characters go into a standard tavern, and some standard drunken debauchery happens. I put some interesting flair on the scene we're in, as my character doesn't get drunk from alcohol because of how many times she had it in the past, building up resistance to it. After our characters start chatting, DM private messages me to check in my bag in-game, as he says there's a strange lump inside it. Okay, so roleplay me opening up the bag, and I crap you not, we were all immediately transported to a godly realm where a god, can't remember the deity but it was BS nonetheless, literally told us it was our destiny to slay the goblins and help save the realm. I'm just trying to imagine what sort of a god transports you and say, you have to slay the goblins. Were you in front of like the Goblin Slayer or something? You arrive in front of the god King Goblin Slayer and he just points to you. You there, slay goblins right now. That's it, make me happy. You know what make me happy? Not slaying goblins. I get you want to give your players a hook and stuff, but this feels jarring. I guess that's the most accurate word to use. It just feels very jarring to just suddenly be like, oh, you're in a tavern just drinking. Suddenly, forced teleportation. There's a god. Told you gotta slay goblins and stuff. You could just give some other motivations too. I mean, if you want to have a campaign where you have gods giving you crazy tasks to do, even, I mean, it's not that crazy to go slay a bunch of goblins and stuff, but I mean, you know, it's whatever. I feel like every campaign has some sort of goblin gen genocide at some capacity, at some point. No goblin sand, of course, goblins are fine. But it's definitely a bit of an issue if that's not the kind of game that was originally advertised it to be, where you're gonna have crazy gods and crazy environments. Sometimes some games just want to be grounded, a little bit more, you know, salt to the earth kind of thing. They want to be a little bit more grounded, not very abstract gods and big tasks and destinies and everything. Sometimes it's perfectly fine to just have adventures be adventures at a tavern. Pick up a quest along the way, pick up a job along the way, I don't know. At which point our warlock immediately dropped out of the game because she was tired of being railroaded by the DM at every turn. We learned the railroad part out later. This immediately set the DM off, and he started asking me in private messages, am I a good DM, and did I do something wrong? And I tried to console him, as did the other players. We enjoyed our DM, but this was unlike anything we've seen before from him. Well, I mean, depends on who you ask. Are you a bad DM? I would say you definitely have improvements you can make. Listen, there's nothing wrong with messing up as a DM. I've messed up plenty as a DM. You will probably mess up as a DM. Every DM in the world has always messed up and still continues to mess up, and they just correct the mistakes by trying to be better in the future and not do the mistakes they've had before. Every mistake makes the DM a little bit better every single time because they'll remember to avoid that mistake in the future. Maybe, unless they do it a couple of times and then they'll remember. But if your DM immediately jumps to the DMs and asking for validation, you get so insecure about whether they're a good DM without having any iota of introspection or just being like, hey, maybe it was a bad idea. Maybe I should listen to player feedback and not force a railroad. Might be a good idea. It is a little bit concerning. Also, why are they jumping into your DM specifically? And I mean, I guess the other players, I suppose they just jump into every player's DMs? I don't know. It seems a little bit strange and bizarre. They're so quick to jump into the DMs just to ask for validation and see if they're a good DM. I feel like your DM might have insecurities with some stuff, and maybe running games is probably one of their insecurities. I personally feel like instead of asking the rest of the players that are there, they should probably DM the player that left and ask him, hey, I'm sorry, I messed up. How can I make things better? Or can you give me some feedback where I can actually learn from stuff? I feel like that'd be the best feedback to receive here. We said that there was an easy solution to this problem. You could just add another player. Then he got mad at us because apparently we weren't offering good enough solutions when we could easily pause the game here and find another player. I asked if he'd think about adding me and another player to another campaign, as he clearly has given up on this one. He says no. Oh my god, this DM just crumbled immediately. You guys are like, okay, well, player's gone. Let's just get another player in. Why not? And the DM immediately goes, how dare you offer me advices that I don't want to hear? Bruh, what else do you want your players to do? This is a kind of DM that's not looking for an actual feedback and actual solutions. They're looking for somebody to give a specific answer on a script, specific guided answer. But nobody's giving them anything they're looking for. Maybe some sort of affirmations or like, no, you're such a good DM. It's the player that is wrong. You were totally right. It's the player that's in or wrong. It sounds like they're looking for validation and not looking for actual feedback. He says, no, we go to say our goodbyes. But in an instant, he blocks all players and deletes the entire server. We reconvene as a group to find another play-by post, and within a day or so, we do find one. And it's the one that we've been playing to this day since December. Still though, the DM's freak out left almost all of us basically traumatized, as it was so sudden and uncontrollable. Barely anyone who was with me from that day remembers in detail about the campaign. Suffice to say, this is where the story ends, and luckily with a happy ending. That's more than some other posts can claim, unfortunately. Well, I mean, it's unfortunate that had to happen, but at least you guys stuck around and decided to continue playing together. So, I mean, there's that. At least, you know, there's that silver lining, I suppose. Most RPG horror stories usually end by people just not playing or maybe moving on, just never playing again. Or instead of just abandoning the game or abandoning the hobby altogether, y'all found each other again on a different post and now you're playing that one. You know, unfortunately, this one was just a fluke and I'm sorry that happened. Kind of a crazy thing. I wonder what sort of like feedback or advice DM was trying to seek from you guys in order to be happy. What specifically set them off from deleting and blocking everybody? Is it because you guys didn't give them the proper like advice or suggestions towards the fix of the problem? Because that's my genuine guess. I genuinely have no idea. Actually, you know what? Who cares about my guesses? Comment section. What do you think? Let me know down below. What do you think happened to this last DM? And why do they just destroy everything and just delete everything so suddenly? What do you think happened behind the scenes? And honestly, tinfoil hats for everybody, including little cutouts for all the horns out there. And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.